if you are doing fine. Today in this particular session, we'll be talking about Indian economy and Indian financial system. IFS, as you know, is the first subject out of all in the JAIIB examination, and we have covered module A under this increment series only. If you have not seen all those videos of module A, it is highly recommended that go and watch those videos once this particular session is over. So moving on to module B, we have discussed the unit number 12th prior to this class, in which we have dealt the important aspects of economics as a subject. How we define economics, what are the important definitions given by various economists. Along with that, we have also seen that what is the fine line of difference between macro and microeconomics. Ultimately, we will be jumping towards the microeconomics for this chapter as well as unit number 15th, where we will be talking about the theories of interest. So the supply and demand, since these are the two market forces which govern the individual choices, which govern the individual consumption pattern, we'll be looking that into your unit number 13th. Starting off with the concept of supply and demand. Now, simply stated, the supply of a particular commodity or the demand of a particular commodity, they are directly related to the price. Right? The price fluctuations which are ongoing in the market, it determines whether the quantity demanded will increase, or for that matter, quantity supplied will increase. On a flip side, whether the decrease in the prices will lead to decrease in quantity supplied or not, or the increase in the prices will again go with the decreased demand. So both these components, both these aspects of supply and demand, we study using the important market force, that is your price. So simply stated, this concept helps to forecast prices and outputs in individual markets. Now, in unit 12, we have learned that microeconomics, it talks about the individual choices. It talks about the individual indicators for a particular human being, a particular consumer, or for that matter, a single business unit. And that's how we'll be discussing the concept of supply and demand, because it falls under the subject domain of microeconomics. This theory simply shows how consumer preferences determine the consumer demand for commodities, while business costs, they determine the supply of commodities. Now, when we talk about the quantity demanded, who will demand certain quantity? Let's suppose 100 units is the quantity demanded in the market. Who will initiate this demand? It's very much obvious that the demand will be there from the consumer's end. Similarly, when I talk about the quantity supplied, let's suppose 150 units are to be supplied in the market. Who will be supplying these units? It will be supplied by the suppliers, or for that matter, business firms. So simply stated, whenever there is an interrelationship between the demand and your prices, we have the important individual consumer preference. So consumers will be creating the demand or nullifying the demand in the market. Similarly, when you talk about the quantity supplied, who will be supplying, who will ensure that this much quantity will be supplied? It will be done by the business firms. So the business costs, they determine the supply of commodities. Now, when we talk about the relationship between price and quantity demanded and price and quantity supplied, the relationship is complicated. It is not that much simple. But to keep things simpler, what we will be doing? We will be doing an analysis of this graphical representation. First thing which you must remember is that whenever there is change in price, when let's suppose the price increases, your quantity demanded will fall. And whenever there is high price in the market, a particular commodity, let's suppose soap, is selling at higher prices. So the business firms will do what? They will increase the quantity supplied of this particular soap. Why? Because they want to maximize their profit. Fine. And whenever there is low price of a particular commodity, the quantity demanded will increase because people want to hoard as much as possible. You never know when the next offer will come in the supermarket. So this is how we try to analyze the interrelationship between price and quantity demanded, price and quantity supplied. Now, as the relationship of price and quantity demanded is an inverse one, you will find that the graph or the graphical representation is also having a downward slope. This blue one is the graphical representation of price and quantity demanded. So downward slope will be there. And as we move to the relationship between price and quantity supplied, there is direct relation. Why? Because the business firms, they want to maximize the profit at higher price. So you will find the upward sloping graphical representation of the particular graph between price and quantity supplied. So these two things are very, very important. The upward sloping, or for that matter, downward sloping, the direct relationship, or the indirect relationship, inverse relationship as we call it. Not only in this unit, that is unit number 13th, but also in unit number 15th, you will be able to analyze in a much better manner all those graphical representations if you know the basics. Right? These basics, if you know, directly proportional, so you will have the upward sloping graph. Inversely proportional, you will be having downward sloping graph. Then it will be a cakewalk for all of you to study the theories of interest. Right? So now let's move on to the law of demand. What is this law of demand? Simply stated, it is a law which states that as soon as the prices go up, as soon as the commodities becomes more pricey, you will find that the demand will fall. That is the simple explanation of law of demand. When the prices rise, the demand will fall. On a flip side, whenever the prices fall, people tend to hoard more number of units of that particular commodity, and the demand will ultimately increase in the market. So when the price of commodity is raised, buyers tend to buy less. And when the price is lowered, other things constant, quantity demanded will increase. So, whether the law of demand is a universal law or not, in some way it is, but there are certain exceptions as well. We'll be looking into the next slide, the exceptions to law of demand. But for now, let's study that why the prices are high and ultimately you have the demand falling. Right? The demand will fall when the prices rise. Why? What are the major reasons? So there are two reasons for this phenomena. First being substitution effect, then we have income effect. Now, whenever I have some alternate to my usage, I eat, let's suppose, dal, the lentils, pulses on daily basis. But the price has risen to a level where I cannot afford dal. So what I would do, I would switch to more vegetables. I will eat more vegetables so as to compensate for the pricey or the expensive dal. So my consumption pattern will shift towards vegetables. And that is the reason why the demand of dal will fall. With the increased price, I have switched to vegetables. So my demand, my individual demand will fall. Okay, and what was the reason behind it? Substitution. I had one alternate with me in the form of vegetables. So I find an alternative, cheaper good. That simply explains the substitution effect. Then we have income effect. Now, whenever there is an income effect, simply you have to keep one thing in mind that whenever the price rises, people tend to divert their consumption pattern. They are not at all sticking to the same type of commodity. They tend to find what? The alternatives. Why? Because there is limited income. By switching to the substitution, you are doing what? You are trying to curb your expenses. You want to have a linear graph of your expenses, the expenditures you want to control. Okay? And whenever there is no dearth of income, you have infinite income, infinite wealth. Nobody cares about the increased prices, right? So income effect is the pushing factor, you can say, to switch to a cheaper good. So as price goes up, I find myself somewhat poorer than I was before. If the petrol price is double, I have in effect less real income. I have to, spend my income wisely. I have to provide for my family. I have to earn some more money in order to compensate for the increased prices of petroleum. But that I won't be able to do. Why? Because I have a fixed income, fixed job. So I will do what? I will naturally curb my consumption of petrol and other goods. Fine. Substitution is what? You have the alternate. And income effect states what? You have a fixed set of income. You do not have infinite income with you. Fine. That is the push factor why you are switching to cheaper goods. Fine. But when we talk about the real world, law of demand will not hold always. You will find certain exceptions to this law of demand. What are the exceptions? Simply stated, whenever there is increase in price, you will find that the quantity demanded is not falling. If such situation is there, then we would say that we are looking into the concept of exceptions to law of demand, which states that there will be complete reversal of law of demand whenever there is increase in price. And why this is happening? There can be two reasons. One, you are talking about the staple diet of people, certain commodities which are utilized by people, without which they won't be able to sustain their livelihood. Secondly, it is about their social presence. The commodities whose price has increased, that particular commodity or the group of commodities, it represents the social status of your society. So if you are consuming such type of goods, then no matter how pricey or for that matter how expensive these commodities get, you will be doing what? Consuming them. And in some cases, consuming more of those particular commodities. So these exceptions are well explained by two economists. One is economist Robert Giffen, another one is economist Thorstein Veblen. So the Robert Giffen would say that the Giffen goods, they are those commodities without which you cannot sustain your livelihood. Economist Robert Giffen was an Irish economist. He used to live in Ireland, and there people eat more potatoes as compared to other vegetables. They are more dependent on potatoes. So once during his young age, there was a dearth of potato prices. They were shooting up, and ultimately, being an economist, Robert Giffen figured out that now, since the prices are high, demand will be lower. But to his surprise, what happened? That the demand stayed up. And ultimately, the demand was there as compared to the earlier price also. Right? When the prices were, let's suppose, 20, then the demand was 20, and when the prices they were increased to 30, the demand also slowly and gradually moved up to 22. So such kind of analysis was made by economist Robert Giffen, and from there only we define Giffen goods. These are not luxury items, these are simple items, the staple diet of most of the people. But as the price will rise, they will be having similar kind of demand, or maybe the demand might rise. Then comes the study of luxury items like luxury bag. We have Hermes bag, iPhone, Ferrari, Aston Martin, all these luxury cars, the supercars. So this particular study was conducted by economist Thorstein Veblen, where he defined the Veblen commodities. So normally whenever you have a tendency of spending on these luxury items, you do not care about the price. And same is the wording, same is the observation of economist Thorstein Veblen. When a commodity is expensive, its worth and utility are thought to be greater. Hence, demand for that commodity will rise. You might have seen in India also, everybody, as compared to, let's suppose, 10 years back, now everybody owns a one iPhone, right? It is such a common device now. Earlier, only few people used to have the access to iPhone, but now everybody is there. They are trying to, have one particular social status, and ultimately the sale of Apple products, it is on rise in our country. So not only with the higher prices, demand was intact, it has in turn increased because of the social status. Okay, so high price mobile phones, designer bags, all these are the examples of Veblen commodities. And while defining the Veblen commodities, we have one important term, that is conspicuous. Conspicuous consumption. What is this conspicuous consumption? Conspicuous simply means noticeable, that you are able to notice a type of consumption pattern. Whenever you are driving on the road and you see a luxury car, right? Most of the people, they feel that yes, that is something which you should notice because it is rare. So that particular luxury car, out of all the cars stuck in the traffic, you notice that particular car. Why? Because it is a luxury item. It is not available very easily. Not all people can afford a 10 crore car. Right? So the noticeable items which are there in the society, in the market, whenever you are trying to have the consumption pattern defined for such noticeable items, you use the Veblen commodities aspect. You use the concept of Veblen commodities defined by economist Thorstein Veblen. Right? So this conspicuous consumption term, it was given by economist Thorstein Veblen. That you must remember. Next, we have one more important concept in your supply and demand chapter, that is market equilibrium. What is this market equilibrium? See, the two market forces, demand and supply, whenever these forces are in balance. Balance means the consumers who are creating the demand and the business firm who are supplying the required commodities, both of them have no reason whatsoever to change the price. If such a situation arises in the market, we say that market is in equilibrium. The consumers find no reason to change their demand, or for that matter, business firms have no reason to change their supply in the market. Reason being, the prices at which the consumers are buying that particular commodity and the price at which the business firms are selling that particular commodity, that is being accepted overall. The consumers are saving while purchasing such a commodity at this price, and business firms are making the profit, the desired profit they wanted to sell this particular commodity at this price. So such a situation will be termed as market equilibrium. There will be equilibrium of supply and demand. So the market equilibriums, it comes at the price and quantity where forces of supply and demand are in balance. And the price at which this particular equilibrium is there, we will call it as market equilibrium price or the market clearing price, MCP. At this price, the amount the buyers want to buy is just equal to the amount sellers want to sell. And the reason we call it equilibrium, it is that when the forces of supply and demand are in balance, there is no reason whatsoever for the price to rise or fall as long as other things are remaining unchanged. Right? So there is no reason as such for the business firms or for that matter consumers to change their price or the demand. Okay, so this was it for today's class. Now, if you have any doubt related to this particular chapter, you can ask me in the comment section. And one quick update for all of you. Right now, we are providing huge discounts on our JAB CAB Mahapack. So if you want to enroll in our courses, the paid classes, now is the apt time. And if you want to know more about these courses, you can contact us on the number that is 0981 981 9247. Okay, so see you guys in the next session. Till then, goodbye, everybody. Take care.